Thank you, Madam Speaker. Over the last several months, the investigative committees of the House have been engaged in an impeachment inquiry into President Donald Trump's efforts to solicit foreign interference in the 2020 elections, efforts that compromised our national security and threatened the integrity of our elections. Throughout this inquiry, he has attempted to conceal the evidence from Congress and from the American people. Our president holds the ultimate public trust. When he betrays that trust and puts himself before country, he endangers the Constitution, he endangers our democracy, and he endangers our national security. The framers of the Constitution prescribed a clear remedy for presidents who so violate their oath of office.
This just happened. The House Judiciary Committee has officially introduced articles of impeachment, but something even more dangerous is happening behind the scenes. For the first time in modern history, the federal judiciary is openly breaking with the President of the United States. This is not just a political disagreement. This is a total institutional rupture. Judges from the district level all the way to the Supreme Court are issuing public warnings. They are saying the President is a threat to the Constitution. This changes everything. It turns a political fight into a constitutional crisis where the referees are now blowing the whistle on the players. The system is blinking red. When the people tasked with interpreting the law start saying the president is acting outside of it, the ground shifts. We are watching the legal firewall collapse in real time. This is a moment of extreme peril for the administration and for the stability of the government itself.
That is the power of impeachment. Today, in service to our duty to the Constitution and to our country, the House Committee on the Judiciary is introducing 2 articles of impeachment charging the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, with committing high crimes and misdemeanors. The first article is for abuse of power. It is an impeachable offense for the President to exercise the powers of his public office to obtain an improper personal benefit while ignoring or injuring the national interest. That is exactly what President Trump did when he solicited and pressured Ukraine to interfere in our 2020 presidential election, thus damaging our national security, undermining the integrity of the next election, and violating his oath.
We need to look closely at exactly what is unfolding right now because the details are stunning. The House Judiciary Committee is moving forward with 2 articles of impeachment. They are charging the president with abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. The core of the charge is that he placed his personal political interests above the national security of the United States. They argue he solicited foreign interference in the 2020 election and then tried to hide the evidence. This is the formal legislative process. But the real story, the one that is actually changing the math in Washington, is happening in the courtrooms. Something massive and unprecedented is taking place across the entire federal court system. We are seeing a revolt. Judges are turning on the president in real time. This is not happening in secret. It is happening in public. It is happening loudly. Judges from district courts, appellate courts, and even the Supreme Court are criticizing the president without holding back. They are calling out his contempt for the rule of law. They are saying his attacks on the courts are systematic and dangerous. This criticism from the judges is now being used directly by Congress. The new impeachment resolution, known as H.Res. 415, actually quotes these judges. The document cites their words as evidence that the president must be removed. This is a crucial development. The legislative branch is using the credibility of the judicial branch to build the case for removal. They are taking the words of judges who say the president shows contempt for the Constitution and using those words to prove he is unfit for office. Let's look at why the judges are doing this. For months, the president has been attacking judges by name. He has insulted them on social media. He has attacked them at rallies. He has even suggested that judges should be impeached simply because they ruled against his policies. He has threatened them with career destruction. He has tried to create an environment of fear and intimidation. He wanted the courts to be afraid to rule against him. But this strategy has failed. Instead of being intimidated, the judges are fighting back. They are responding collectively. This is incredibly rare. Judges are usually silent, they usually stay out of the fray, but the attacks have been so severe that they feel they have no choice but to speak up. They are defending the very concept of judicial independence. Chief Justice John Roberts issued a public rebuke. This is something that almost never happens. He stepped in to say that impeachment is not a tool for punishing judges who make decisions the president dislikes. He made it clear that judges must be free to rule according to the law without fear of retaliation. He was drawing a line in the sand. He was telling the president that the judiciary will not be bullied. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson went even further. She stated clearly that threats against judges are attacks on democracy itself. She warned that this kind of rhetoric risks destroying the rule of law. She said that the president's behavior is a betrayal of his oath of office. These are strong words. They are not the kind of words you usually hear from a Supreme Court justice about a sitting president. It is not just the Supreme Court. There is a viral sentiment circulating right now about 29 judges demanding removal. While that specific number comes from online discussions, it reflects a very real trend. Judges across the country are striking down the president's policies. They are blocking his executive orders. They are calling his actions unlawful. They are saying his attempts to bypass Congress are unconstitutional. This includes judges appointed by both parties. It includes judges appointed by the president himself. They are looking at the law and they are ruling against him. One appellate judge described the president's actions as a full-throated assault on the First Amendment. Another judge said he shows open contempt for the Constitution. We also have the voice of J. Michael Ludig. He is a highly respected conservative legal scholar. He was once on the short list for the Supreme Court under a Republican administration. Even he is saying that the president and his attorney general show open contempt for the Constitution. When you lose the support of conservative legal scholars like Ludig, you have lost the legal establishment. The impeachment resolution uses all of this. It quotes Roberts. It quotes Jackson. It uses the judicial pushback to legitimize the removal effort. The judiciary is effectively providing the ammunition for the impeachment. They are not voting on removal, but they are validating the reasons for it. They are confirming that the president is acting outside the boundaries of the law. This means the president is now fighting a war on multiple fronts. He has lost the support of the legal system. His attempts to intimidate the courts have backfired. Instead of bending to his will, the courts have stiffened their resistance. They are blocking his agenda. They are striking down his immigration policies. They are stopping his attempts to dismantle federal agencies. They are ruling that his emergency power grabs are invalid. The judges are saying that the president is not a king. They are saying he is subject to the law just like everyone else. And because he has attacked them so personally and so relentlessly, they are making sure their message is heard. They are signaling that they will not protect him. They are signaling that they will protect the Constitution instead. This is a complete breakdown of the relationship between the executive branch and the judicial branch. The president relies on the courts to uphold his orders. If the courts view him as a threat to the legal system, they will not give him the benefit of the doubt. They will scrutinize every action. And right now they are finding his actions to be unlawful. The impeachment inquiry is highlighting this breakdown. It is showing the American people that the president is at war with the rule of law. It is showing that the people whose job it is to interpret the Constitution believe the president is violating it. This is a powerful narrative. It is a narrative that is hard to counter. You can attack politicians as partisan. It is much harder to attack the entire federal judiciary as partisan, especially when conservative judges are joining the chorus of criticism. The situation is escalating. The language being used by the judges is getting sharper. The rulings are getting more decisive. The House is moving faster. The walls are closing in from the legal side and the political side at the same time. The president's strategy of attacking the referees has resulted in the referees uniting against him. This is the reality on the ground right now. The legal system is fighting for its survival, and it is identifying the president as the primary threat. We need to take a step back and analyze why this specific rupture matters so much. In the history of American politics, we have seen tension between presidents and courts before. Presidents often complain when they lose a case. That is normal. What is happening now is not normal. This is a fundamental shift in the power dynamic of the federal government. We are witnessing the immune system of the republic trying to reject a pathogen. The United States government is built on a three-legged stool: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branches. For the system to work, there has to be a baseline of respect between these branches. They have to accept each other's legitimacy. What we are seeing now is the judicial branch signaling that it no longer views the president's conduct as legitimate. When judges start using words like contempt and assault to describe a president's behavior, they are saying that the president has broken the compact of governance. Compare this to the Watergate era. Richard Nixon certainly had his battles with the courts. He tried to fight the release of his tapes. He lost in the Supreme Court. But even Nixon did not engage in a systematic daily campaign of personal insults and threats against individual judges in the way we are seeing today. Nixon fought on legal grounds, even if his arguments were flawed. The current situation is different because it is personal. It is an attempt to break the will of the judges through intimidation. This matters because the judiciary is the ultimate arbiter of reality in our system. If Congress passes a law, the courts decide what it means. If the president signs an order, the courts decide if it is legal. If the president loses the courts, he loses his ability to act. He becomes paralyzed. We are seeing the early stages of that paralysis now. Every time the president tries to move, a judge blocks him. The fact that this is bipartisan is the most critical aspect of the analysis. If this were only judges appointed by the opposition party, the president could claim it is just politics. He could say it is a deep state conspiracy. But when you have conservative stalwarts and judges he appointed himself ruling against him, that defense falls apart. It reveals that the issue is not policy, the issue is the law. It exposes the president as being isolated from the entire legal tradition of the country. We also need to look at the concept of fear. For a long time, there was a belief that the president could bully anyone into submission. People were afraid of his tweets. They were afraid of his rallies. They were afraid of his base. What we are seeing with the judges is the evaporation of that fear. The judges have realized that if they stand together, they are stronger than the president. The fear factor has broken. Once the fear is gone, the president loses his most potent weapon. This institutional pushback acts as a permission structure for others. When the Chief Justice of the United States stands up to the president, it makes it easier for a moderate senator to stand up to him. It makes it easier for a military general to stand up to him. It signals to the rest of the government that resistance is not only possible, it is necessary. It validates the idea that the president is the problem, not the system. The use of judicial quotes in the impeachment resolution is a brilliant tactical move by the House. It depoliticizes the argument. Instead of saying we think he is bad, they are saying the judges say he is dangerous. It shifts the burden of proof. It forces the president's defenders to argue not just against the Democrats, but against the judges. It forces them to attack the legal system itself. That is a much harder hill to climb. We are also seeing the consequences of norms being shattered. For decades, there was a norm that judges do not speak about politics. That norm is gone. The president destroyed it by dragging the judges into the mud. Now that the judges are in the mud, they are fighting back. This will change the judiciary forever. It has forced them to become active participants in the defense of democracy rather than passive observers. This is a crisis of legitimacy. A president cannot govern effectively if the courts believe he is acting in bad faith. Every executive order is presumed guilty until proven innocent. Every policy is scrutinized for hidden motives. The presumption of regularity, which usually protects presidents, has evaporated. The courts are now assuming the worst because the president has shown them the worst. This is a self-inflicted wound that cannot be healed as long as the attacks continue. So where does this go from here? We have to look at the likely consequences in the short term and the long term. The immediate outlook is grim for the administration. The legal defeats are going to accelerate. The judges have signaled that they are not going to give the president any leeway. We can expect a wave of rulings striking down his policies on everything from immigration to deregulation. The administration will find itself gridlocked. They will try to act, and the courts will say, stop. In the short term, this also supercharges the impeachment process. The House now has a powerful new weapon. They will use the words of the judges in the hearings. They will read the quotes from the Chief Justice on national television. This will make the case for removal much more compelling to the average American. It moves the needle from partisan bickering to constitutional emergency. We will likely see more judges speaking out. The dam has broken. Now that the Chief Justice and others have spoken, there is safety in numbers. We might see joint statements. We might see more blistering opinions in lower court rulings. The judiciary is going to assert its independence aggressively, They are going to make sure the public knows they are not under the president's control. Looking slightly further ahead, this creates a dangerous dynamic for the 2020 election. The president is already claiming the system is rigged. Now he will claim the courts are rigged too. He will try to delegitimize the entire legal system. This is dangerous because the courts are the ones who decide election disputes. If the president convinces his followers that the judges are the enemy, and then those judges rule against him in an election case, the potential for instability is massive. If the president is not removed by the Senate, he will be a wounded executive. He will be a president in name only when it comes to domestic policy, because the courts will block his agenda. He will be isolated. He will be fighting a war of attrition against his own government. This leads to stagnation. It leads to a government that cannot function. However, there is also the possibility that this judicial revolt changes the calculation in the Senate. Republican senators care about the courts. They care about the legal system. Many of them are lawyers. When they see the entire legal establishment turning on the president, it might give them the cover they need to vote for removal. They can say they are doing it to save the Constitution, citing the judges as their reason. It provides an off-ramp for Republicans who are tired of the chaos. The long-term consequence is a reshaping of the presidency. Future presidents will have to be much more careful about how they talk about the courts. The judiciary has shown its teeth. They have proven that they can bite back. This establishes a new precedent. If you attack the referees, you lose the game. We are heading into a period of extreme volatility. The institutions are colliding. The president is refusing to back down, and the courts are refusing to fold. Something has to give. Usually in American history, when the president fights the courts win. The law has a way of outlasting the politician. The president is betting he can break the system before the system breaks him. But with the judges now fully engaged and the impeachment articles introduced, the odds are shifting against him. The system is fighting for its life, and it has just brought its heavy artillery to the front lines.